Welcome to Techstination. Joining us is Christopher Lloyd, journalist, educator, and author. Thank you for joining us, Christopher.
Thank you, Fred. It's great to be here.
Well, you've got a book out with a very ambitious title. It's called
Yes.
Absolutely Everything, A History of Earth, Dinosaurs, Rulers, Robots, and Other Things Too Numerous to Mention.
That's it.
Tell us, now this is sort of like a genre that you've worked in before in books. So tell us what your philosophy or strategy is, and then we'll get into what's in this book.
Of course. Well, actually, Fred, it really goes back to about 15 years now when I have two daughters who are now grown up. But when the older one was 8, she got bored at school, which is never a good thing in a young child. And because the school was very much focused on teaching to the test, the teacher was focused on those who weren't going to do so well in the tests. And Matilda was doing fine in her maths and English, how they were tested. And so she was being given very boring things to do just to keep her quiet. And there was nothing there for her to be interested in, really. And so we had to try and find another school, and we couldn't find anything near where we lived. And we ended up home educating while we tried to find another school. And I know that lots of people in the U.S. home educate, and it's very popular here too. We didn't mean to do this, but the first 3 months were a catastrophe, actually. It was really disastrous because we tried to create, our instinct was to create a school at home where the children, would have a syllabus and a timetable and a curriculum and lots of books, and we'd divide the day up and everything. And it was just worse than ever. And it was only after about 3 months that we realized that we needed to do things differently. And we started asking Matilda what she was interested in. And when she started telling us what she was interested in, and she actually told us she wanted to learn about penguins, by the way, which, well, that's great. We went to visit penguins at London Zoo, and we found out about Antarctica and about plate tectonics. It used to be on the equator, and it's now the South Pole. And she wants to do stories about ice, and we do math through penguins, and we started doing our science by heating up, ice and seeing what temperature it melts, and then stories about ice and learning about the Titanic and dancing like penguins, which is as good as I can dance at the best of times. But what I realized was that, kids can learn all the key skills they need, whether it's creativity and writing and research and maths and memory and communication, through anything that interests them. All we have to do is connect knowledge together. And I sort of realized that I'm a victim, like we all are, of a system that's obsessed with chopping knowledge up into little pieces, fragmenting it into syllabuses and curriculums and different times of day and different teachers. And, of course, reality is not like that at all. I mean, this is a complete nonsense for a young mind. The whole world is connected. Everything's connected. And what I want to do with this book, and I've been trying to do with other books over the years, is to find ways of creating resources that help kids, parents, and teachers connect knowledge together. And so the idea of a narrative that goes all the way from the beginning of time, 13.8 billion years ago, all the way to the present day, to connect everything together, seems to me to be something that's, desperately, badly needed. And if we can make it accessible and fun, it can be really an exciting way for kids to enjoy storytelling through nonfiction.
So what you've done here is provide a lot of information. Obviously, despite the title, you can't have everything in there. But
I do say at the beginning, obviously it doesn't contain everything. But what it is, it's an architecture, it's a framework, a scaffolding that will encompass everything from the beginning of time to the present day, and then lead you by the hand through all of the most amazing things that have happened, that I think have happened. Of course, I'm the author, so I guess I have to make these choices. But in a way, you'll have heard of lots of things and lots of things you won't have heard of. And hopefully it's a journey that, you certainly won't have been on in school, because that's not the way things are done.
And you do it very much in a story kind of format.
Yeah. I think this is something else that's slightly missing, particularly in nonfiction books for young people, is that the reference books tend to be all split up into different themes, and then they split up into little paragraphs and illustrations and captions, and that's fine as a reference book, but children love stories. We all love stories, and I'm a great believer that the real world is more amazing than anything you can make up. I think it's just a mindset. There is an amazing story about every object in our houses, or everything we're wearing, or everybody we meet. it's just a matter of trying to see it, from a perspective like you're seeing things for the first time. And, if you can take children on this epic journey through billions of years, you're starting in space, and then, of course, you're going through the creation of the Earth, through natural history. Eventually you meet humans, and then you're in the Stone Ages, and then these civilizations all the way from China to the Americas to Europe to the Middle East, and then how it all fuses together with inventions and technology and explorers, and then revolutions, and then, of course, you get conflict, and then we got all sorts of issues. The last chapter is called To Be Continued, because the story isn't over, thankfully. There's all kinds of things that need fixing or resolving or doing again or doing better, and of course that's where the next generation is going to come in. So I'm hoping they will feel motivated to want to be the change by seeing how the story has played out over these aeons.
You seem to enjoy surprising your readers too with different facts, so to speak. Robots, for instance, come to mind.
Right. I mean, robots are fascinating because, of course, the history of robots goes back a long way. I mean, I do feature some of the most amazing mechanical automatons that were made in France by Jacques Vaucanson, that were eventually given to Louis the 14th in France, and these were amazing clockwork machines that could serve drinks, or they could. There was one which I featured called the defecating duck. So it was a duck that you could feed at one end, and it would poop out of the back, and each wing had 400 moving parts. So I mean, there's a very rich history of robots. But of course, the main thing now is in the last chapter to be continued to be thinking about, what's the world going to be like as automation really kicks in and takes over. Many of the jobs that kids will do when they're my age haven't been invented yet. So, because so many things are going to be automated, and so that gets them thinking a little bit about, what the ethics are and how much we want to outsource to machines, how much we want to preserve for humanity in terms of decision making, and how we construct a world where, there is some sense of order and control, and it's not all kind of haphazard and chaotic. So, even though these are big themes, funny enough, children at age 9, 10, 11, their brains are at peak curiosity, and so provided the narrative and the design of the book is appealing and accessible, I think they can engage with all these complicated and really important themes right from that age upwards.
And that's really the age range that you're aiming for with this book, right?
Yeah, I think so. 9 and 10 and upwards, and I'm hoping that. When I say upwards, I'm hoping, Fred, I don't know how much you've had a chance to look at it, but it's something for adults too. It's something for, an accessible, really easy to read narrative of world history that could be exciting for an adult of any age. But then hopefully it's something that they will share with children, or children will share with them, because again, it's not just connecting knowledge; it's about connecting generations. And many of the issues, like for example, plastic. What are we going to do about plastic? We have to find a way of weaning ourselves off it. What can we use instead? How do we live our lives in a less plastic world? Well, of course, this is a topic for children and adults to discuss and to talk about and to think about and to try and, fathom these things out together. So if they have a narrative and a book that they can both enjoy that crosses these generations, then hopefully it's providing a useful purpose.
What are your thoughts about how young people might use this book while at the same time using their various screens, the mobile devices, right, computers, etc.? I guess there are ways that can all kind of tie together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, computers I always think of them as amplifiers. You can play great music on them and it sounds beautiful, and you can play terrible music on them and it sounds awful. So in the same way, they amplify things. So if you want to find out something, it would have taken you maybe a whole day to find out in the old days if you went to a library and looked it up in a book and then all the rest of it. Now you can just get it at your fingertips, which is so exciting. And if children want to find out more about anybody or any event or any moment in time, then I can give it in absolutely everything. And obviously I'm giving everything, a little nudge here and there as we go through the story, but I can't go into the depth that some children will want. then they can find that out online. And that is just terrific, because what this narrative has done is acted like a kind of weather vane, really, and it's allowing children to find out for themselves the things that they find of most interest, but do it in a context. So if they want to find more about Tutankhamun, or if they want to find more out about the Olmecs and their invention of rubber, or whatever, or the French Revolution, or whatever it may be, then it's hopefully just excited them enough to make them think, oh, I'd like to find out more, and then they can go to their screens, they can go to their computers, and they can find out more. And I guess it's that kind of, that's the function of big history, is to provide that context. And in many ways, I think wisdom and learning is best done through a process of zooming in and zooming out. I suppose you could think of it like the Z-axis on a graph. And many resources and books and school curriculums are focused on zooming in and specializing on bits of information. And what we're lacking is the opportunity to take a step back and see how it fits together, which is what I'm hoping can be best done in a book, because it's quite difficult to do that on a screen. And, a screen is quite a limited size, and you're always being invited to click on something else and go somewhere else, et cetera, and tunnel into things. It's not very good for zooming out. But a book, however, I think is the right medium for providing that big overview.
And finally, what should parents know about what they and their kids are going to gain from reading this?
Well, I'm hoping they will gain shared time together, where actually, even though it's a book, they end up talking about what's in the book to each other. I've written it in a way that's very colloquial. I'd like to think that I do lots of lectures and talks all over the place in schools and at festivals and in different countries. And I like to think that when people are reading this, they can hear my voice or hear a voice as if it's, telling them a story. Because I'm hoping parents will read a chapter to a child, and then a child will read a chapter to the parent, because they're both learning new things, because there aren't very many adults who know all the stuff that's in this book. So it's not like the adults at one level and the child's at another. This is not a patronizing book. This is a book aimed at leveling people as fellow human beings on a journey, regardless of whether they're 9 or 99. And if the book can accomplish just, something along that line, then I will be delighted, because that's what I'm trying to do.
Wonderful, and congratulations on your work here. Again, it's called Absolutely Everything. Christopher Lloyd, thanks for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Fred. It's been a pleasure.
Now this. How many companies out there have continued to innovate when it comes to building a better radio? I'm Fred Fishkin, host of Techstination, and I'm here to tell you about the new CC Skywave SSB radio from the wonderful people at C. Crane. Bob and his crew really love radio, and it shows in this new compact model that is packed with features. Beyond great AM and FM reception and sound, you can tune into shortwave signals from around the world, listen to ham radio operators, aviation, and more. It's the radio you'll turn to every day, and in emergencies. It will run for nearly 3 days on just 2 AA batteries. Pair the sleep timer with the new Soft Speaker 3, and you've got the perfect radio for your nightstand. Of course, it can wake you up too. Click on C-Crane at Techstination.com and put in the code Techstination for a free flashlight with your order. They love radio, and you'll love C-Crane.